You might have seen the headline saying the government wants to increase the recommended amount of saturated fat people eat, and if that sounds confusing, you're not wrong. For decades, we've been told to keep it lower because higher intakes raise cholesterol and increase heart disease risk. So, what changed? Well, the short answer is not the science. The shift seems driven by politics and messaging, and the result will be more confusion, more heart disease, and less trust in decades of nutrition science. So in this video, I'm gonna break down what's actually true about saturated fat, cholesterol, and heart health in plain English, so you can make sense of all this noise. Let's start with what we're even talking about when we say saturated fat. Saturated fat is a type of fat found mostly in animal products like butter, cheese, and fatty cuts of meat, and in some plant foods like coconut and palm oil. Chemically, saturated just means that the fat molecules are packed really tightly together. They're fully saturated with hydrogen atoms, but that's nerd shit. And if you're thinking, but Alex, how do I know what fats are saturated? Generally, if it's solid at room temperature, it's a saturated fat, or you could just look at a nutrition label. The key point is this: saturated fats tend to raise cholesterol levels more than other fats do. And that doesn't mean that they're poison or that you can never have them. It just means that eating a lot of them, especially in place of healthier fats, can push your cholesterol in the wrong direction over time. And that's where the rest of this conversation really starts. Because if saturated fat raises cholesterol, we need to understand what cholesterol does in your body. Cholesterol isn't inherently bad. It's a waxy substance your body needs for hormones, cells, and digestion. And you've probably heard of LDL and HDL cholesterol, often referred to as bad and good, respectively. And I don't love the black and white language around that, so let's get clear on their roles. LDL is like a delivery truck that takes cholesterol to various tissues and cells throughout your body. HDL is like the return truck that scoops up excess cholesterol and transports it back to the liver for recycling or disposal. It's like the process of you ordering way too much shit on Amazon, and then you have all these boxes that a recycling truck comes and picks up. But imagine if the recycling guy never came, and over time your house was overrun by boxes that you couldn't get rid of, and they keep coming and coming, and soon you can't even move throughout your house without tripping over the boxes, and you can't even use the bathroom or cook a meal because everywhere you look there are boxes. That's basically what happens in your arteries when LDL levels are too high. Plaque accumulates along your artery walls and can lead to heart attacks and strokes. Alright, let's talk nuance. Different food with the same amount of saturated fat can act differently in your body. For example, it seems that cheese and yogurt doesn't seem to raise LDL as much as butter or red meat. And there's also huge individual variation. Some people's LDL barely moves with more saturated fat, and others skyrocket. So if the science is nuanced, why would anyone want to tell the population to eat more of the thing that raises cholesterol? I've got no fucking clue. Here's what we know from decades of feeding trials. When people eat more saturated fat, LDL cholesterol goes up. When LDL cholesterol goes up, heart disease risk goes up. Every major meta-analysis, even drug trials that lower LDL, show that reducing it lowers your risk. So if a guideline encourages higher saturated fat intake, it's ignoring that entire chain of evidence. And that's what makes this so frustrating and nonsensical. This isn't a debate about small details. This is directly against decades of research.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
That brings us to what the actual expert organizations still recommend. The American Heart Association knows a thing or two about heart health. Their recommendation is to keep saturated fat to less than 6% of daily calories. And for reference, 1 gram of fat is 9 calories. So if you're eating 2,000 calories per day, this would be about 13 grams of saturated fat. And if you went to Wendy's for lunch and got a Baconator, you're already over double your recommended intake. Look, I don't want to be Betty Buzzkill and tell you that your diet is trash and you're ruining your body, but yeah, if you're eating like shit all the time, don't expect to be the healthiest person when you're in your 50s, 60s, and beyond, if you make it there. Luckily, healthy eating doesn't have to be complicated. Prioritize whole foods, and especially plants like fruits, veggies, beans, that type of stuff. And you shouldn't fear fat, just shift the balance away from so much saturated fat. Use olive oil instead of butter, add nuts and seeds, eat fatty fish like salmon a few times per week. If you like red meat, keep portions reasonable and add in some leaner cuts from time to time. Do you love fast food? That's fine, just don't eat it every day. And get your cholesterol checked, especially LDL and ApoB if possible. And remember, health isn't made or lost by one food group. It's built by consistent choices over time.